Today, we've got the first look at the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, including confirmation on the specs and performance. Let me know in the comments who out there is excited for the Galaxy S24, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with the latest tech. So first up, we've got more confirmation that the Galaxy S24 is launching earlier this year, and according to a lot of reports, we're going to be seeing it in January 2024 in San Francisco, and we could even see the phones released in January as well. Now next up, we've got great news about the upgrades to the display, and for a change, it isn't just going to be for the S24 Ultra. According to TechRev on Twitter, all three models are going to be using the same display technology, and the only difference between them is going to be the resolution. The new display is going to be an LTPO M13 OLED panel, and it's got an impressive peak brightness of 2500 nits, and this is much brighter than last year. It will of course be a 120Hz display, and it's great to see that all models are getting the highest quality display. Next up, we've had the Galaxy S24 Plus appear on Geekbench, and this not only gives us an idea of the performance, but it also confirms that the Exynos 2400 is going to be used on the S24 and the S24 Plus. Now it shows a single core score of 2067 and a multi-core score of 6520, and this is an improvement on last year's. And it also confirms that the Exynos 2400 is a 10-core CPU, and that the S24 Plus comes with 8GB of RAM. Of course, it's important to note that being early benchmarks, these scores are going to improve slightly with further optimizations. Now the Galaxy S24 Ultra has also been spotted on Geekbench, and it got a single core score of 2234, then a multi-core score of 6807, and again it's a significant improvement over last year, and it also confirms it's running Android 14 along with 8GB of RAM, so it's likely that users are again going to get the choice of 8 or 12GB of RAM when it comes to the Ultra. Now next up, we've got the S24 Ultra's camera specs from RG Clouds on Twitter, and he advises it's a 200MP HP2SX primary sensor, and that's a 1/1.3-inch sensor with 0.6 micrometer pixels. You get a 12MP ultra-wide using the IMX564, and that's a 1/2.55-inch sensor with 1.4 micrometer pixels. We get a 10MP 3x telephoto using the IMX754, and that's a 1/3.52-inch sensor with 1.12 micrometer pixels. And then finally, it's a 48MP 5x telephoto, and this is using the GMU sensor, and it's a 1/2.25-inch sensor with 0.8 micrometer pixels. Now despite only having 5x optical zoom this time, the S24 Ultra is still going to offer 100x zoom. Now Edge Universe also advises that while recording video at 4K 60 frames a second, you're going to be free to switch between 0.6, 1x, 3x and 5x zoom without having to stop the recording. Next up, we've got the first look at the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, which was provided by OnLeaks and SmartPre, and then I've used their information to create these 3D renders. Now it confirms that the Galaxy S24 Ultra is going to look a lot more flat, although the display is still curved, it's just only a slight curve towards the edges, so it's not going to cause any problems when you're using the S Pen on the edge of the display. Now the display is still 6.8 inches, but it does look bigger given that the bezels are much slimmer this time round. And then we've also got the S Pen housed inside the phone, and then an ultra-wideband antenna on the right-hand side. When it comes to early design leaks, OnLeaks has proved himself to be reliable time and time again, and of course, things can change running up to the release, but I would say that we can be about 90% sure that this is what the Galaxy S24 Ultra is going to look like. For those excited for the Samsung Galaxy S24 series though, we're now going to run through the full specs, price and design to help you guys decide which one is right for you. For my regular viewers, you guys have seen this, so feel free to skip to the next video, but if you're new here, then hit subscribe now and we'll get right into it. The standard Galaxy S24 is coming with a 6.1-inch 120Hz dynamic AMOLED display. We get a resolution of 2340 by 1080, and it's going to be using Samsung's new M13 OLED panels protected by Gorilla Glass Victus 2. We get a 12MP punch-hole camera for the selfies, then on the rear it's a 50MP primary camera, a 12MP ultra-wide and a 10MP telephoto, and of course it's going to be powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in South Korea and USA, while European users are going to be getting the Exynos 2400. We get 12GB of RAM and a choice of 256 or 512GB storage, and this is going to be a UFS 4.1. It comes with a 3900 mAh battery, and while fast charging is still unknown, we're hoping to see an upgrade to something like 40 watts, but we do know that we're getting 5G, Bluetooth 5.3 and Wi-Fi 7. Now it's coming with One UI 6 based on Android 14, and it's expected to launch from about $850 to $900, and that's going to be in February 2024. Now next up, we've got the Galaxy S24 Plus with a 6.7-inch 120Hz dynamic AMOLED display. We get an upgraded Quad HD Plus resolution of 3120 by 1440, and it's going to be using Samsung's new M13 OLED panel, and again protected by Gorilla Glass Victus 2. We get a 12-megapixel punch-hole camera for the selfies, then on the rear, again it's a 50-megapixel primary, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, and a 10-megapixel telephoto. It's going to be powered up by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in South Korea and USA, and again Europe users are going to get the Exynos 2400, and again we get 12GB of RAM and then the choice of 256 or 512 storage, which will be UFS 4.1. It comes with a 4700 mAh battery, and while fast charging again is unknown, we're hoping to see an upgrade to something like 40 watts, and again we get 5G, Bluetooth 5.3 and Wi-Fi 7. It's coming with One UI 6 based on Android 14, and it's expected to launch from about $1,050. Now finally, we've got the most premium, the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and with the S24 Ultra we've got a 6.8-inch 120Hz dynamic AMOLED display. It's got a resolution of 3088 by 1440, and again it's using Samsung's new M13 OLED panel, protected by Gorilla Glass Victus 2. We get a 12-megapixel punch-hole camera for the selfies, then on the rear it's a 200-megapixel primary camera, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, we get a 50-megapixel 3x telephoto, as well as a 10-megapixel telephoto with 10x optical zoom. Despite previous rumors, it's going to be powered up by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in all regions, and it's only the S24 and the S24 Plus that are still going to be using the Exynos. And with the S24 Ultra, we get 16GB of RAM with up to 1TB of storage, and of course, it's UFS 4.1. It comes with a 5000 mAh battery, and while fast charging is still unknown, when it comes to the Ultra, we're hoping for an upgrade of something closer to 60 watts, and we're also going to get 5G, Bluetooth 5.3 and Wi-Fi 7. Now it's coming with One UI 6 based on Android 14, and it's expected to launch from $1,250. So overall, the Samsung Galaxy S24 series seems to be focusing on user experience and cameras, and changing the Ultra to a much more flat display for usability, and of course they're reducing the zoom lenses to focus on improving the closer shots. Now of course we're going to get better battery life and performance thanks to the new chipset, and hopefully the lack of physical changes to the design means that we could see them at a similar price point as many other manufacturers have also managed this year. Now of course, as soon as anything else comes in, I'm going to be sharing it straight away, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing in the future.